Now, my next guest is a man who is in Australia to, among other things, try and save the soul of our parliaments. Now, that is a considerable challenge. Peter Kelly is a journalist from Northern Ireland who, for the last 15 years, has campaigned on behalf of people caught up in terrorist attacks. He talks about the importance of governments to memorialise victims and increase the level of support to survivors. And here we are today, the 12th anniversary of the September 11 attack. So it's not coincidence that brings him here. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. We have to go back to Omagh in the last century to learn where this interest comes from.
We certainly do. Omagh was Ireland's September 11th, and my family are from there. I'm originally a journalist from Northern Ireland, from a war zone, the capital city of Belfast. And I first campaigned for victims' rights after the 1998 attack in Omagh, which was called Ireland's September 11th. From that, I was working with inspirational people to get inspirational results. We made history in being the only victims group to achieve justice through civil lawsuit court in bringing the perpetrators to court and justice 10 years later. I've been inspired by victims around the world. I've worked with 9/11 victims. I've spoken in South America, in Colombia with FARC victims, in Madrid, Spain with ETA victims, Italy with Red Brigade victims, and of course victims of the Irish attacks with IRA and loyalists.
You mentioned, Omagh, 29 people lost their lives as a result of a car bomb. Yes. How do victims manage to take the IRA to a civil court?
Well, it was the real IRA, so it was a dissident group, yep. And we did it through people power, and that's why I'm here to assist those Australian victims of Bali attacks. People power in Ireland is a link to people power in Australia. There's a very strong link between the two countries. There's a great umbilical cord between the Irish and the Aussies, and that's not just the convicts or Jim Owen or people like that. But we are inspired by a network of international victims groups around the world from those countries I just mentioned. And I flew here not just as a coincidence for 9/11, but deliberately for 9/11. And those victims from September 11th are listening in at the moment. I'm connecting them with the Bali group. I'm connecting them with people around the world in a network.
They share the horror of a life changed by dreadful circumstance. Speaking to people who've gone through those experiences, you talk about the need to memorialise the experience and those who lost their lives. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my first stop on this 31-hour flight to come here to Perth was at the memorial in Manhattan at the Twin Towers. And what I'm hoping to assist the Bali group here of Australian victims is how to promote an extra memorial in Bali at the site of the attack. I know that Tony Abbott has been honourable in offering pledging extra
compensations,
right, $75,000, etc. to the group. He said that, and we have a new government, of course, but the outgoing noble Prime Minister of Kevin Rudd was also supportive, as was Julia Gillard. So it's a matter of connecting the grassroots of people here on the ground, as I've been involved in before, with the government, and honouring that great tradition of memorialising and showing that victims really need to be acknowledged, supported, and it's a bipartisan approach.
Is the great anxiety of the victim collectively that their experience is forgotten, gets forgotten?
Absolutely, and even though it was several years ago, that pain doesn't go away. There's a very much a moral impetus upon the nation's leaders in Canberra and Washington and London and Belfast and Dublin and places like that around the world to be there and follow up on their promises and deliver on their promises. One of the inspirations for me being here is two institutes in America, one called the Kroc Institute at the University of Notre Dame, who promote what we call strategic peace building in connecting all these different groups together at a grassroots level so that every effort can be utilised to complement each other in supporting peace and reconciliation.
Now you're delivering a seminar at ECU today, but I'm interested that you posed the question, how can victims become pivotal parts of counter-terrorism strategy, both in Australia and throughout the world? What role is there for someone who has already been so cruelly and randomly punished in this way?
Well, that's a focus we have in the academic world at the moment, who are seeking to assist victims and the wider picture of counterterrorism by integrating victims into ways of dissuading future possible combatants that may take up arms in terrorism, using victims' voices as a way of showing that there's a humanitarian option here, that victims shouldn't be forgotten, and there's a human impact after bombs go off. And in a way, we can honour victims by doing that. We can pledge support to them. We can honour those that have fallen, that have died and been killed, and we can therefore heal the past as well as projecting to the future to stop things happening again like this. So it's a multifaceted approach.
If that bomb had not exploded in Omagh in 1998, is this the path your life would have gone?
Yes, I think so. Because I came from Belfast and from very much a war zone situation, we had a lot of these atrocities happening regularly, and I was honoured to be studying this as academically at Queen's University in Belfast, and also to be then linked with American initiatives for peace building in Washington, D.C. I flew here from where I live and work near the Pentagon in Washington, and there we're looking in an organisation where we look at the multi-track diplomacy of how to connect different actors together to assist on the ground level and to bring both government level with grassroots actors together so that we can all have a collective approach to healing, to building, and to making sure these atrocities don't happen again.
Well, on this very significant day, it's good to have met you today, Peter. Thanks very much for coming in.
Good to see you.
That's Peter Kelly.